Good morning, and thank you for being here for Nonprofit Dreaming Spotlight Solutions. I'm Melissa Hildees. Akash Mishra is with me this morning, my co-founder, and Bobby Wright, who is going to be our solutioner. Is that a word? Solutioner today. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to him, let him share his screen, and give us the challenge statement that he is going to solve today, and tell us a little bit about how that solution works.
Okay, here comes my screen, and I'll start with my introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Bobby Wright. Everyone can see my screen right now, correct? Okay. I am an independent Salesforce consultant that works exclusively with nonprofits. I've started my Salesforce life working for a tiny nonprofit, got sucked into this world, and I've just been building little widgets ever since about 2012. And it really kind of wraps into this, I guess, the problem that I'm going to be highlighting today. When I got started in Salesforce, I used form assembly to probably build maybe 120 different forms to get our data inside of Salesforce. Somewhat the reason was back then it was Salesforce Classic days and there was no dynamic hide this field of this. And so I replaced a lot of page layouts just with form assembly forms. But I found really quickly as time went on and I moved away from that nonprofit that, man, I now had a lot of technical debt because every single one of those forms had a different pre-fill connector. Everyone had different post-processing connector. And every time you need a new form, that just increases your technical debt, increases your technical debt. So when they came and said, oh, COVID happened, we got to change our process. And now I have to go into 60 different forms in the back end and the front end and change all of these places. And so my goal for the last probably 10 years was say, how do I get inside of Salesforce and how do we leverage the automation tools to not repeat ourselves? That's a big thing in the developer world is don't repeat yourself. We have this magical platform, right, that allows us to put in logic. And if we can keep re-referencing that logic, then that whole idea of having 100 forms is maybe we still have 100 different front end, but we don't have 100 different back end and data conversion processes running that need to be changed. And so that's what my goal today is, to try to show a pattern to get inside of Salesforce, to leverage subflows, to leverage pre-fill flows, and to just kind of switch out what your users see, but you don't have to have unlimited flows every time you need a form in Salesforce. So I'm going to be using the Flow Toolkit, which is my product that I sell on the App Exchange. So really quick, just time check. So I have about 5 minutes here, maybe 7. So I'm going to do a quick just crash course here. So we have a solution in the Flow Toolkit called our form template solution. I'm not going to really go into everything with the Flow Toolkit, but at the end of the day, it's a very different form builder tool where it allows you to build reusable cards. So groupings of fields, conditional logic, conditional rules, because going back to that design I talked about, don't repeat yourself. A lot of times when we build different types of forms, we're replicating first name, last name, what's your phone number, what's your email, and that's the stuff that just takes time. But if you could just build hey, what's my contact card? What's our little account information? Maybe here's a grouping of survey questions that we use often. You can just kind of drop those onto a form really quickly. So that's what I'm going to show you here. I'm going to build a little quick workshop registration in this. This is all record driven. So I don't actually have to get inside of Flow ever as a super user or an admin that's not comfortable inside of Flow, which is another reason why I kind of went this direction. So you can kind of control is the form active? Is there pre-fill that we assign to it? Do we use stages notes? What's the confirmation message? All that jazz. We don't have time to get into that, but there's a lot of magic there. But I'm going to go right into building out this form. So this is the idea of a little block right here, right? Have my first name, last name, title, email. But if I wanted to go in here and add, let's say, some new fields, I can add a new section. And I've already built a lot of these components, so this will just help me go a little faster. So I have like a little global meal component here. I'm just going to drop it onto the screen next. I'm going to look at that here. See, that's the one I want. Put that here. I can see that looks good. And so at the end of the day, this is a very simple form, workshop registration. I can then go and open this into my Experience Cloud site. That'll load that up. There's that information. Bobby Wright, founder. Bobby at commonunite.com. That's not my phone number, so don't call me. So we're showing right now, like, right, this is the fastest way, and like I know, to get data into Salesforce, right? That data doesn't currently live like on my contact object or like on, like, say, like a case record or in a campaign member object. But that's the next step that I'm going to show you, where I think really the magic is. I just threw that together. We leverage in this form template solution what's called a staging object. And so if you've ever used like the NPSP data import object, right? That's a staging object where you have a lot of fields that you can reuse for different purposes. And so when we're designing these little components, these reusable components there, we can throw everything at a single record. And what's nice about that, if you think about that, we don't have to have any validation on that. We don't have to have any like major flows that are triggered off of that, or they're slowing down the process, things that will prevent data from saving. So that when that comes in there, we always know that the data is going to be successful. One of like the limiting factors of, I think, for a lot of orgs moving into Flow is it's really complicated to handle all the things that can go wrong when you try to insert all these different records in there. But what I have built into the form template is a platform event-triggered architecture where you can go inside of here. And at the end of the day, like, what this is if you think about lead conversion, this is like lead conversion for every single object that you could ever want. And so I have built in here some very simple things where I'm going to say, you know what, for this particular workshop registration, I want to create a contact and I want to assign a campaign member. And that's all I have to do. I can go down there, I can assign my matching rules. I can say I want to update the most confident match. I could change out the different mapping criteria, but for this quick demo, I'm just going to go very quickly. And I'm going to try to go to this little form that I just submitted here. And I can see that this form submission came in. And there is that data that displays in the org, just like the user viewed it outside of Salesforce when they submitted it. But I have this piece in here where now that I added in the, I actually got to change this here really quick. It's probably going to error on me too, because I didn't actually assign a campaign, but that's expected. I'm going to click reprocess. That's going to run all those platform events again, and I can kind of see like what's going through this process. Oh, look, we got a contact that's created off of that. But yeah, my campaign member failed. But this is what's nice about not being inside of Flow, is you can go in and see, oh, you have an issue. There's no related campaign, so you can't actually submit that right there. Like, ultimately what this was designed for is to then take these form templates, and this is where it's magical as far as how, like, to what I'm saying about reusing this. If I go to my campaigns, I could go to, what did I just make earlier? All active events. I made this little mindfulness retreat here. We have a component that you can drop on any object, and you can wire any object into calling this form template, so that you can say, you know what, I want to change out the name of the form. I want to change the availability, the confirmation message that's displayed, maybe even the email template that we send out from there. But what's nice about this is I could leverage that thing that we just built. Right, I throw that together. There's, actually, what did I call it? I'm not going to wait too much time on that event registration, because I'm looking at the wrong thing. That's why. Workshop registration. I'm going to click save. I can see right here, preview my form. And there's that right there. Now, if I go from this direction, if I reference that form template from this campaign, I'm now what I do is I just send people right to that campaign record, and this component knows I'm coming from the campaign. I'm gonna ingest like the campaign information, and now when I put this in here, mm, click register now, we get that. And if I go back to my campaign, it might take a couple seconds to come through. But there, right there is my campaign member. And once again, one of the things that I tell people all the time about this is I don't waste time building, once again, don't repeat yourself. I don't build page layouts. I don't build dynamic forms. We just drop that form that somebody filled out right onto the page. And because you're inside of Salesforce, you have all the relationships of like, I know that I created this campaign member from this form submission based on that platform event, or I've created the contact. Anywhere we go, we can pull down that data so that your users can see when somebody registers, oh, maybe they don't really need to necessarily report on this, although this is something that would be useful to report on. Maybe just want to click a quick little review of like who the people that are coming to this event. So that is very small little taste of like what you can do to eliminate the need to have to go in and every single time you have a new workshop or a volunteer event or a grant application that you have to go in and build a flow for every single purpose or build some kind of form. Like the goal in this situation is you reuse these components, you wire in a pre-fill flow that maybe is like unique to like the business process, and then some business process flows for converting that into the data that it goes to. But once you get those two sets of flows set up, it's very quick to throw these together and to get once again, data flowing into Salesforce. So that is
I love it, Bobby. That's great. And that's amazing.
Mhm.
In 10 minutes, what you've shown us there. I personally, and I will let everybody else open the floor for questions, but I have a couple of questions if I can ask. And thank you again for doing this. We were talking before we started. I've never seen this demoed in all the time I've known Bobby, which is hard to believe, but you wind up at a conference busy and forget to go and see. So there are, and I knew I would lose the word as soon as I looked for it, but in Salesforce, you can group fields together in
Field sets.
right field sets. And does that work with field sets as well?
It doesn't, but I'll tell you, like back from my olden Salesforce days, when I started building this was like, why isn't there like a field set thing for Flow? Because
Right.
I don't like dragging an individual field onto the screen and then having to say, drop this data inside this field. It's like, I treat flows as a developer treats Apex. Like, I want the Apex to handle the business logic,
Right.
but it shouldn't care about what somebody sees on screen or even like what fields you put for a certain object. Like some user can be able to switch it out. And that's what the beauty of a field set used to be on a visual force page is say, we want to add this field, this field, this field. Then your flows just, if that field's there, great. We'll map it into the object. If it's not, we don't care. We don't have to go and update those flows once we've set the business process or how we want to create that. But yeah, it's very close to field sets when I teach people about like the kind of the origin story and like the design. Although a lot of people don't know field sets ever existed or use it. It's
And I
lost
do
on them.
love your object that collects all the data and then you sort it from there, because that's always a challenge when you're looking to find things across fields. Also, the error messaging is so helpful. I mean, it actually tells you. One of my big complaints about Salesforce is it's like, if this error continues, talk to your system administrator. It's like, I am the system administrator and I still don't know what's wrong.
That's yeah.
So
I
when it
have a
says the campaign's not there, that's really incredibly helpful. Does it work outside of Experience Cloud, Bobby?
for sure. It does. I mean, it will work anywhere that you can load Salesforce, I will say that I have a couple things built into it. There's this embed code button that if you wanted to, it works outside of Experience Cloud, but you have to have a site. Whether that's a classic site or Experience Cloud site, you just got to spin it up, because if you want it to be like an anonymous guest site where people are just submitting data to Salesforce, you need that authentication tool, and the guest user is that authentication tool. So if you just create new site, click inside here, you can either throw a flow at it, because I'd highlight that we built this originally just for Flow, where you're dropping these components inside of Flow, and that we're moving towards the form template solution, but you can also drop in these components directly into it, and then you get this little code, you dropped it on a website. There's a couple of other things you have to do, but it's...
But it writes the code.
Yeah, once you get it there, there's copy that, drop that in there, as long as you tell Salesforce this site is okay to display our iframes or our course policies, then it will work. But that's just set up one time that you have to do.
Awesome. Other questions?
How much?
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, so I was asking that how much time does it take? Like if I want to use it today, how much time will it take to actually set it up to start using it?
I mean, it depends. If you wanted to, the form template interface for sure is, I think it is more for like business processes where you need to create multiple records, and like creating those flows and designing your platform event structure is the thing that takes the most time. Like designing your components is however quickly you can add a component here, drop things. This is what the actual builder looks like. Moving things onto the screen, making edits to it, just how it looks. And so however much time that takes you to design your components and to build them to be reusable. Now, I will say, like, enough people don't take advantage of this, I don't think, but going like the lead and the case object are all free objects in the Flow Toolkit. I tell people all the time, like, if you've ever used like the web to lead solution, it's ridiculous. Like you can literally build this right here, anything on the lead form, and you can drop this right onto any Experience Cloud page inside of Salesforce. It doesn't require a flow. It'll just create the records inside of Salesforce. And so this might take 5 minutes to put this together and start getting data into Salesforce. And that's one thing what I'm highlighting is getting data into Salesforce is what takes a lot of time for other tools. And once it's in Salesforce, then you have the choice whether you're going to leverage Flow, Apex, or even if you need to convert that data into some other object. Because for a lot of folks, like just having this data in the lead object to say, oh, someone's interested in our program, that's a giant win to get that in there.
Other question that I have is there any data duplicacy which is happening like in the background? Is there some object where everything gets stored and then gets onto multiple different objects?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm highlighting is the platform event architecture in the background. So when I build this, when I go in and I implement this for other orgs, we'll oftentimes add more of these conversion rules. Each of these, this is one of the main reasons to have a multi-select pick list inside of Salesforce is to use this inside the Flow Toolkit. This is mapped exclusively to a conversion flow. And so when people are like a la carte going here and saying like this, telling us, hey, go call this flow, and convert that out of there. And then what this looks like, and I'll highlight that this is maybe where it gets scary. This part's not scary because if you've not ever used the transform element, like this is as simple as like, right, we want to convert the data out of our staging object into, this is our contact mapper right here. Right, you have your form submission with all of those fields on the form submission, and it comes with a lot of pre-built fields so that you don't have to create phone numbers, first name, last name. It's just all in there. You can add as many new ones as you want, and then you just map them in here. If you need to do some transformations, you can do that here. And then we have some nice reusable, like just data processing flows that like handles like duplication, matching, inserting, updating based on like what's in there. But this is what we call our big controller is, where it's at the end of the day, it's a decision. It's a decision element that you go through and you say, hey, did they say they want to create a contact? Do they want to add it to a campaign member? And then you map the flow that is related to that pick list value there. And so, and as long as this is organized in the way that we know that we should as admins, that we have to create the account before we can add the context to it, then it just goes through that process. And once again, if any point in here it breaks down, like what we saw in the demo there where the campaign member wasn't created, it stops right there. You can then with the report alert say, oh, something went wrong with this. Someone can go and fix it. And you can just tell it to go reprocess, and it'll start going down the list of things again and doing the conversion. And so this is the piece where I'd highlight, this is a different paradigm for a lot of like system admins and Salesforce users. But once you understand that, like, oh, I just have to build this one time and have like my business process here. And then most of the stuff that I might do is maybe adding some new mapping flows. Like it's very quick to pop up new designs, because then you're just focused on the front end, dropping the fields on.
That's quite amazing actually to see how easily you can build it and reuse it, and then also in case of errors that can also be replicated. It is like one-time setup, and then you can get used to it. Yeah, but it's pretty awesome. Thank you.
I saw in passing, and this might be a teaser for maybe a part 2, but can you talk about themes a little bit? Because I saw that, my antenna immediately went up.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too excited about themes. What you should get excited about is, well, I can't see it here, scoped style sheets. You can inject a style sheet that's scoped for every single form template. It's just not on this page right now. I'd have to add it, but it shows up below here. A theme in the form builder it's very simple, where we have different themes for different programs in our little demo here. Main thing it does is it changes like the heading color, some border colors. You can change like the brand color, the prompt background. It's a lot of color stuff. But if you really wanted to go in and like, if you see right here, like I do have some of this where it is, let me give you an example. I think that this particular form, nominate a neighbor, it has a custom style sheet added to it where I added some different branding for this particular use case and made the buttons bigger and made the fields kind of pop out. And yeah, so it's still Salesforce. It's like this is all using Salesforce like base components for the most part in Lightning Design System. But if you know the Lightning Design System, and or if you have a web developer that can build you a style sheet, all you need to do is just override those base classes and then pass that style sheet into the form template, and then it will scope it just for this particular ID, so it won't leak into the rest of your Experience Cloud site.
That is great, because you can see a Salesforce form from like 10 miles away. So this actually makes it look so much more modern and fresh. And I just love that capability is there.
Awesome. Anybody else? I don't want to cut us off. We've got about 4 minutes, but any other questions, thoughts?
It is pretty cool. I'm thinking back on various customers I've had in the recent past, like, oh my gosh, they could have used this. Oh yeah, this would have been so helpful. Yeah. And Bobby's like, give me their names.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of orgs, it's been doing really good this last year. And I'll tell you, strange enough, I think it is the nonprofit cloud that people were sent to the nonprofit cloud, and then they're showed Omni Studio and they're like, I think we need something else. And like I always tell people, like, you know, to me, this is like someone that works with nonprofits all day long. It's like, I can't think of something that I would need outside. Like, I use this in all of my projects. Like I'm like the number one customer when I'm implementing it. And so like, when it comes to like, do I want to get inside of Omni Studio and write some data raptors, or do I want to use Flow to handle my data processing? Like, it is bar none the easier thing to use and to get other people on the team to use. And I'm it's either someday that those little flex cards are going to become easier just to drop inside of a Flow screen, which Salesforce, if you're listening out there, like that needs to happen. Because I mean, that I've been working with just lots of grant making orgs that I've been paying for the grant making licenses, and they get this just really, really difficult to use product that they have no way to customize their grant applications that change every other season, and they have 10 different programs, and some of the questions are the same, but they really need their internal staff to be able to go make those changes. And like, so that's what we're really doing a lot of work in that space, for grant making orgs and outbound funds orgs, but sure works with other orgs as well. But like, it really saves time in those places where you have these really big long forms and you don't want something to go wrong, and you don't have a developer to build you Omni Flex cards.
It's great, Bobby. That's actually, you bring up a good point. I'm sure you would be happy to sell this product to someone who was corporate America and not just a nonprofit, right?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of orgs that are nonprofits buy it because it is agnostic. It's built from my experience of working with nonprofits and knowing like where the little rough edges of all these solutions are when I'm working with admins, that I could teach how to work with the form template framework, but there's just no way I'm going to give them a flow and say, hey, get inside this flow and you just got to open up this little node here, and this is where you do the mapping. I'm trying with the project that I'm working on to keep that separate. Say, you know what, I'm going to build you out a perfect business process that hopefully you want to come back to me. But if you do, right, that's the little bit. You're not going to come back to me when you need to change a label for a field on a form, which is like what a lot of other solutions require. I highlight like adding a new field in this situation. So again, like if I didn't drill that piece in enough, adding a new field is dropping it onto the page, and all the mapping just happens like a field set, right? There's no need to ever get inside this flow. And I don't know if there's any other solution where it's that easy to say, hey, add the field. Nobody has to get inside the backend connector to pre-fill it, to process it and tell it where to go. And so like that by itself is something that just eliminates just lots of complexity with orgs.
It's great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Eliminating complexity is a wonderful thing. I'm going to wrap us up now, and thank you all for being here. And we will see you actually Thursday. We have the next solution spotlight. So we'll see you then. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Bobby. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Happy day.
Thanks. You too.